Hello, hello. My name is Michelle Drew, and I'm your host on From a Mess to a Message, where I interview inspiring people who have gone through a messy time in their life and they've come out on the other side with a message of hope and inspiration. So I met today's guest when I was on her podcast back in December, and I've been following her ever since. Then I had the opportunity to see her TED Talk, which blew my mind. I would highly recommend that you check it out, and we'll make sure we have a link for you in the show notes. But Sabrina Victoria, she has gone through a messy time. She's come out thriving and changing lives and creating such a ripple effect in the world that I can't wait for you to meet her. So welcome, Sabrina. Thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast today.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Yes, great. So let's dive right in. Let's go back to that time when you were young and naive and in a relationship that was not the most healthy. Kind of
Mhm.
walk us through that messy time in your life.
Yeah, of course. So, the messy time started because I was in a vulnerable state. I got pregnant when I was 20, and I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I wasn't married when I got pregnant. So, Jehovah's Witnesses have what's called disfellowshipping. So because I was disfellowshipped, I lost contact with my entire family, mom, dad, brother, sister, my entire community, everyone I'd ever known. And I led this stereotypical single mom, just broke life of like eviction notices at my apartment door every other month, car getting repoed, digging in my couch cushions for 25 cents to put gas in my car, and just really dark, sinful, and poor,
Yeah.
broken, unworthy.
Yeah.
So this is the state of mind that I was in.
Mm.
And yeah, I wind up linking up with this guy who came in like a like a knight on a horse to save me.
Yeah.
And I was just so grateful. I was closed off from all of my past friends and family. So this guy comes in and he's paying attention to me and he's taking me out and he's wanting to help and be there for me. And within a very short amount of time, he convinced me to move in with him,
Mhm.
as a gift. Let me take care of you.
Yeah.
You're struggling, just come live with me. And then my job, your job sucks anyways. Come work for me. Let's build an empire together. And so he's giving me these gifts. And the more that he starts to control
Yeah.
my life, my money, is when abuse starts to enter.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, setting you up for that
Yeah.
in baby steps. And that's how abusers operate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
One of
were
the
already separated from your family and friends, so he didn't have that layer to have to deal with.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of times, not all times, but a lot of times that is what they look for. They look for people who are already isolated,
Yeah.
who are already vulnerable, because they're the perfect victim.
Yeah. Now, how long did you stay in that relationship? And did it ever get to a point where it wasn't just mental abuse, that it kind of took another turn?
I mean, it was mental, emotional, sexual, and financial. There was no physical hitting, which he
Okay.
used against me all
Yeah.
the time. He would always say, "You're acting like I hate you." Like I was supposed to like bow down because he wasn't hitting me. Like I was just supposed to be so grateful that he's not
Wow.
hitting me. Such a weird like conversation. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's such a mind, you know.
Yeah. You're lucky I'm not hitting you. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's so, and how do you argue that? Like it's
Yeah.
it's just so awkward to even argue that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it didn't start out that way. A lot of people are like, how do you even get into those relationships? They don't come across that way.
Right. It's
One of the things that I was
gradual,
talking
right?
about, yeah, one of the things I was talking about in the TED Talk is they build a foundation of love and trust just like anybody does.
Mhm.
But the difference is when you're dealing with somebody who is toxic like that,
Mm.
is you start to see little red flags that pop up in that foundation of love and trust. They kind of test you like, what
Mm.
will happen if I do this or do this? And if you stay,
Yeah.
you know,
You're accepting it. You're
Yeah.
saying
And it
it's
gets,
okay to treat me this way.
yeah. So that's what happened. It started out with like some bad things that he would just say, outbursts of anger, or, saying not nice things to me. And then it just graduated into, controlling all of the money. Like I said, he eventually started to control all the money. He eventually started to abuse me sexually, but that wasn't happening all on day one.
Right.
It was a gradual thing over an entire year, and then before you know it, then you're just stuck. You've invested a year. And the way that he did it, I was broke and I
Mm.
had no one to turn to. So even once I started to realize like, this is so toxic, I had no way to leave. He controlled all of my money. He controlled my car, my phone, my computer, because he swapped everything out for his stuff to take care of me as gifts.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. Yeah. Now you had your son. Was it your son?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now he was with you during that time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Full
But
time.
probably too young to really recognize what was happening.
Yeah, we've actually talked in depth about it. And he says he doesn't, well, first of all, he was really nice to my son.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, he wasn't mean at all. There was one incident that I'll never forget. Um, but he was not mean to him.
Mm,
But yeah, my son doesn't remember. He's like,
good.
any arguing or anything that you were doing, my dad and his woman also argued. So, just seemed like arguing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't really comprehend it as being any different than arguing. The other thing is, since my ex and I worked together, we were with each other all day long. So while my son was in school, is when a lot of the abuse would happen.
Mm,
So the real roughness of it, verbally would happen while he was at school. And then the residual of me just being quiet or calm or submissive or just trying to just like put out the fire is where we would be at when
yeah.
my son actually came home.
Yeah. And I would imagine that having that additional responsibility of a child added to, I've got to stay here. I mean, I have no way to
Oh,
provide.
absolutely. Yeah, that was the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I could have just gone and stayed. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I Googled like just to stay on someone's couch.
Yeah.
Like Craigslist or whatever was back then. I don't even remember, but like I was on some listing all the time, just
Wow.
trying to find a place to stay. But people didn't or wouldn't take a mom with a child. It's just too much baggage. People are just looking
Yeah.
for one roommate, one person, one, whatever it is. So it
Right.
was impossible but girl, I probably monthly was looking for a place cheap that I could just escape to.
Yeah.
And nothing ever panned out because of the boy.
Yeah. So how did you make a plan and have your escape really? I mean, how
Yeah,
did that come together?
yes. So it was 8 years in. I'm
Wow.
on the floor in the bathroom having a total mental breakdown, like crying and screaming,
Wow.
like death was coming out of me. And I was on the floor in the fetal position in the dark in the bathroom. And this wasn't the first time. This
Mm.
happened all the time. But this particular time, I pulled out my phone. I always say Google saved me. I pulled out my phone and I Googled. I'm on the floor crying. I can barely see the screen. And I'm Googling, why is my boyfriend bullying me? Because I didn't know any other vernacular other than the word bully. I'm just like,
Right.
he's mean to me. He's a bully. And Google is the one that told me that I was in a narcissistic relationship. I had high empathetic vibes. I was super codependent. I had no financial fortitude. And basically, Google told me I need to get my shit together. And yeah, I did a complete 180. The really awesome thing that I'm so grateful for in the way that I did this is individuals usually go one of two ways. Either one, they go into trying to fix
Mm.
the other person. They dive deep into the personality disorder, whatever it is, and they try to learn all the things about the personality disorder so that they can then educate that person or fix that person.
That's exhausting.
Yes. And impossible. And
It's
impossible.
impossible, right? Yeah.
So luckily for me, I spent 90% of my time. Did I dabble in it and try to, like do some research? Of course I did. I didn't like not do any research, but 90% of the stuff that I did educationally was for me. So I
Mm,
realized two things. I realized one, there was a shit ton wrong with my partner.
yeah.
Two, there was a shit ton wrong with me.
Mm,
Right. So I dove into myself, personal development, how to fix my head.
yeah.
Like, why is it okay for this to be happening? Why am I okay with this? So really just diving deep into all the things.
And
And
that is so powerful what you just said. So many times we'll point the finger at
yeah,
somebody else, 100%. Oh, it's all their fault. But
yeah,
you took responsibility for your part in the situation. So kudos to you. That's incredible. And I
absolutely.
think I think our guests can take a lot away from that,
Yeah,
that you've got to take responsibility that we are where we are based on our own choices. So
yeah,
kudos to you for that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
after that, I just, like I said, I dove into personal development. I dove into all financial literature, on how to save money, how to make money, all the things.
Mm.
Within a very short amount of time, I opened up a secret bank account. I started 3 online secret businesses. I had no clue what I was doing. And over a couple of years, I saved 50 grand. And I literally
Wow.
just ran away one day. Yeah. I took
Wow.
my clothes, my son, and my bicycle. I left everything else behind.
Yeah.
And we had a whole life together. We had multiple houses, multiple
Yeah.
cars, a thriving business. And I walked away from everything and
Wow.
I just started all over again. Yeah.
Wow.
And I've been building businesses ever since.
Yeah.
I've been really stepping into my power ever since. I've been really working on myself ever since, and really consistently open to how to be better, how
Mm.
to do better.
And how cool that, I mean, now you're sitting on the other side of it. When you look back, that mess was necessary
Yeah.
for you to become the person that you are today that doesn't need any man. You're going
Yeah.
to be with a man that you choose to be with, and that's that. And that's beautiful. It's like we sometimes we look at the mess and think like, why me? But as I'm doing these interviews, I can see how everything lays out beautifully the way it was meant to happen. And grateful that your son doesn't remember any of the ickiness there. That's a
Yeah.
blessing. That's a blessing
Yeah.
in itself. So fast forward, I don't know everything about you, but I know so many great things that you're doing to empower women.
Yeah.
So talk about that, how you've taken that messy time and you're creating a message for your community of amazing women.
100%. So, two of the main things that were said to me in a as a put down in my past was, whoever makes all the money makes all the rules,
Mm.
and whoever has all the money has all the power.
Wow.
And that always kept me really small because I had no money. Right. So it
Mm.
was always like, whenever I'd get a little mouthy, you know, you have any
Mm.
money? Because whoever makes all the money makes all the rules here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It shuts you up real fast.
Yeah.
So that hit hard on a consistent basis. And one of the drives for me doing so well in the business silently and then exploding once I left that relationship in my business was that, right? Whoever has all the money has all the power. Whoever has makes all the money makes all the rules. And really stepping into, not in a negative way,
Yeah.
right? We're not trying to mimic or copy him,
Right.
but just really recognizing how true that is.
Mm.
To be able to take care of yourself financially is powerful.
Yeah.
It does create confidence. And so, I have stepped into female entrepreneurship and really helping women build out thriving, successful businesses,
Yeah.
and really allowing them to realize the importance of making money,
Mm.
how to make money, how to stand in their power, how to stand confidently, and really realizing that when we are helping women make money in their businesses, we are changing the direction of the entire generations to come, right? Because
Yes.
these women have, like yourself, have superpowers
Right.
where they can so help shift people
Yeah.
out of mindsets, which then allows that person to show up differently for their family going
Mhm.
forward, which
Yeah.
changes everything for those
Everything.
children and the grandchildren. But if the women cannot sustain their businesses with the superpower that they have,
Yeah. Yeah.
then we all stay the same.
Right.
So to
Right.
be able to empower a woman who works in trauma, who works in healing, who works in finances, who works in family dynamics, so that they can then help their clients
Yes.
in those areas,
Yes.
right? It all comes back to my community, Her Nation,
Yeah.
where we bring these women together and we say, hey, listen, these are some steps that you need to take and implement so
Mm.
that you can start creating financial freedom for yourself, financial foundation for yourself, so that you can keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
So you can continue to help women, men, to be able to help their next offspring and then their next offspring. So it's the the vision that I have for the community that I'm building is exponential.
Yeah.
It's
That
not just
ripple
like,
effect
yeah,
goes
it's
on
not,
for.
yeah, it's not just, let's help women make good businesses. Ooh. It's like, dude, we are changing the trajectory of generations to come by
Mhm.
keeping these women in business and keeping them
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah. And that's so true. And one thing I love about your Her Nation and your podcast and all the things is, and now your new virtual magazine, is that we're not in competition with one another.
Yeah.
We're here
Yeah.
to support and lift each other up. And it's just such a beautiful place to be. It really
Yeah.
is.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the foundations also of Her
Yeah.
Nation, is just that there's
Yeah.
enough room for everybody.
Yeah.
I was actually just having a conversation with somebody about that the other day, who also runs a community. Hers isn't for business women. It's more in the sense of like communication,
Mhm.
but building a community around that of women. And she was talking about just some of the issues. That's what I do. I help people with their issues with their businesses. So she was talking about some of the issues that she was having, and I gave her some advice, and I told her to come into my community. And she's like, are you comfortable with me coming into your community? Because I also have a community. And I was like, yes, girl. Like, I have women in my community that have communities that look just like mine, who help female entrepreneurs, who help business women. And they also have a circle and a community and a mastermind and network. And yeah, 100%, where there is no competition here. I'm not trying to get all, we're working together as a whole. I can't do all of it,
Right.
so there has to be multiple women that are doing this so that we can rise, all of us can rise together. I'm not
Right.
expecting to be the only one.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's so important, so important. Even as a naturopathic wellness consultant, it's like there are hundreds of thousands of people who do what I do, and I want to meet them all. It's like I want to meet you, and what can I give you? What can I learn from you? Right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's how we thrive. That's
Yeah,
how we thrive.
exactly. What can we learn from you?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Is there anything that we didn't get an opportunity to touch on that you hoped that we would in our time
Mm,
together?
mm. Um, one of the things that I really like to talk about is the concept of learning how to reinvent yourself, I guess. I
Mm,
think it's so important to recognize that the space that you're in now doesn't have to be the space that you're in forever. It was a huge shift for me, changing identities from a victim mentality
Mm.
to a victor mentality. And it was also really scary.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I like to talk about, because I was getting all my accolades while I was in that relationship towards the end, and after the relationship, in my victim story, right? I would tell my victim story and people would be like, oh my gosh, Sabrina, you're a warrior. You're amazing. Oh, and that is where I was getting my
Mm.
identity, was my accolades, my good jobs, was from me being in a state of victimhood. And when
Mm.
I started to realize that I wanted to shift into my power, I actually had this visualization probably 36 times before I actually did it. But I would imagine myself at the edge of the cliff, from one cliff to another. You see this a lot on pictures, but like from one cliff to the other.
Yeah.
And this is power. And this is where I was at in my victim story. And I would envision myself standing in my victim cliff, wanting to jump, but like, what if I freaking miss? You know, like,
Yeah.
what if I don't make it? What if I'm not powerful? What if I don't know how to be powerful? What if it's all a facade? How do I get back to my story? You
Right.
know? And the mental like conversations that I had to constantly have with myself of like, you have to,
Mm.
if you really want to step into the confident, powerful woman that you are meant to be, you have to leave the victim cliff. You have to jump. And
Yeah.
it's super, super scary.
Yeah. Because you
And I
can't straddle
felt it.
both.
Oh, I felt it so bad. And like, if I'm not a victim, who am I? If
Yeah.
I'm not somebody who is being abused, who am I? If I'm not somebody who had the patience of Joe, who am I? If I'm not a person living in lack, who am I?
Mm.
And I had to fully 100% identify, trust in my own abilities to be
Yeah.
able to succeed when I jumped. And it was a definitive moment. I don't necessarily remember when, but it was a definitive moment where I said, I'm going for it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm going for it. And oof,
Yeah, I just felt that. It's like,
yeah.
what a powerful message for anyone who is in a bad relationship or is, got out of it and they don't know where to go from here. What a powerful message that is.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you have to, for those out there listening who are dealing with anything, doesn't have to be mice, could be anything. When you're in a state of low vibration, of
Mhm.
darkness, you're in a state of victimhood. You just are. You're feeling sorry for yourself. You're in a woe mentality, I used to
Mm.
say. Woe is me. Oh.
Yeah.
And you can shift. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't always happen. Don't be like, I'm a failure because I can't understand it. You got to keep having the mental conversations with yourself. You have to keep reminding yourself. And then one day there's a switch, but it's a consistent, internal dialogue that has to continue to change.
Yes.
One of the things that I used to say to myself all the time in the beginning of this is, I know everything. Because I was told all the time that I didn't know anything. You're stupid, you're dumb, you're an idiot, you have no college education. Who do you think you are? You don't even know what you're talking about. And so towards the end of that relationship and into my, on my own, I used to tell him, I know everything. I know everything. I know. And what that did is it reaffirmed to myself that I know so much. And then it also kept me in the space of needing to consistently learn
Mm.
in order to keep the identity of I know everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
good.
there's some humbleness in that, right? It's not all ego,
Right.
but just
Right.
really just a constant reminder of I know things.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
do things.
Right.
And just that one little sentence just helped me a lot.
Yeah, I'll bet it did. I bet because whatever energy you're putting out, you're going to draw more of that energy back to you. So you've got to step it up. And I never, when somebody tells me I'm really good at this, or I'm beautiful or whatever, I never think of it as ego. I'm like, good for you, girl. You got your confidence and you're wearing your Wonder Woman cape. I love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So Sabrina, there's so many gems and nuggets in what you shared with us today. What message would you like to leave our audience with?
Hmm. A mantra that I've been saying to myself since I was probably 28 years old. I was listening to some sort of a podcast and they said, list all of your accomplishments,
Mm,
know everything that you've done in your life in order to reconfirm to yourself that you're capable of doing hard things. A lot of times when you're in a situation, it seems really hard, really hard. And you're like, I don't know if I can freaking do this. And when you have a list to remind yourself of all the things you've done, you can do it. So the mantra that I started to say to myself at that point was a simple sentence. I would always breathe deep, and I would say, everything's going to be okay.
mm,
And just sitting in this space of like, girl, we've already done this. We got this.
yeah. I love that. I love that. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And making a list of all the things that you've accomplished and you've overcome, it's social proof that yes, you
Yeah,
can. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
That's fantastic. So where can people find you? I'll post all the links, but just in case they want to Google Her Nation or your TED Talk, or where can people find you?
Yeah. So I make everything easy. So my website is my name, sabrinavictoria.com. And that has all of the links to Her Nation for those female entrepreneurs out there, and all of my social media. I hang out the most on Facebook. Sabrina Victoria is my name, and what I'm under. And that's where I hang out the most. And I would love to have you friend me and hang out. And I always, follow back. And always really good, healthy, vibrational, high vibration content
Mhm.
under leadership, wealth,
Yeah.
education, all that.
Yeah, so good, Sabrina. Thank you so much for agreeing to share with us today and be vulnerable for the benefit of others. And,
Mhm.
I respect you so much, and thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.